On today's episode of the Habitz Podcast, we've got Charles Booth, who'll be sharing with us his good habits when it comes to training. First things first, we'll have some people saying what qualifies you to be our guest experts.
Well, I couldn't tell you because training's natural. Everyone kind of does it, don't they? Everyone has that kind of inbuilt thing. But I've been doing training in a variety of different wacky ways for about 9 years. So about 5 years ago, I started taking classroom training and putting it online. And then for the last year, I've been doing the whole thing online and stuff like that, and trying to basically take a really boring process and make it as weird, off the wall, meaningful, and actually useful as possible. So I think I'm just the best at it. I couldn't tell you anything else about it.
A lot of companies now, with obviously the COVID and working from home, that we're taking a lot of their classroom and face-to-face training and putting it online. So could you tell us some of the things that many companies get wrong when it does come to online training?
Yes, I think the first thing that when people go into a classroom, they've actually got all of the students, the learners, whatever. They've got them all prisoner in a classroom, and very few teachers would maybe admit that out loud. But when you're actually online, that prison holds, that room doesn't actually keep you there, and it's very easy to be distracted and kind of go on the phone or put yourself on mute, turn your camera off and all that sort of stuff and just say you're attended. And so one of the kind of the first things is that, a tutor or a teacher likes to hear their own voice and kind of waffle on. They forget that actually there's somebody else in the room that actually wants to, they've come on for a reason, they want to be there, they want something good, they want the tutor to succeed or whatever, they want it to be a good experience. But the person teaching it, the person running the training, forgets that they're there and just wants to talk and just wants to show off how clever they are. And it's really easy to get stuck into a cycle of yakking and talking and showing off their big brain that the person doesn't learn anything.
So they are really not acknowledging the difference of the environment. They think they've still got the captive audience when they don't realise they're competing, so they don't adapt their training to suit the online experience necessarily.
Yeah, and I think part of it as well is when you're teaching online stuff like that, you don't have the same feedback, and it's the same with a Zoom call. You don't get the immediate feedback when somebody talks, and so you almost have to to make up for the lack of feedback. People talk more. It's like, you don't like an awkward silence, so I'll talk more. You're not sure how to give somebody something to do, so I'll talk more in place of that. When in reality, even though they're online, they still want to do something. They still, they've got a computer there. They've actually got the computer in front of them. They still want to actually, get stuck in with something. They don't really want to listen. They'd rather, get involved.
So what are some of the ways then, if there's anyone watching this and they identify these issues in their either own business or that they do it themselves if they are a trainer, what are some of the good habits that you would say they could implement so they can improve that?
Well, it's a bit of a cheesy way to say planning is key, but with my own, every session, every exercise, whether it's something like, search engine optimization or just how to, set a decent password, something like that, you start with an exercise. You've got to run with an actual practical thing that you can do, something you can actually get involved with. And the big opportunity with things being online, in a classroom, everyone doesn't have a computer in front of them. When you're online, they've got a computer, they've got this tool, they've got they've got more technology in front of them than at any stage in history. Why not give an exercise on, hacking their supervisor's Facebook or, actually going onto a website and doing some development right there and then. And instead of it being like a big talk fest and listen to how clever I am, actually be an activity that you'd want to get involved with, that you can actually get stuck in with. And you can still have that reassuring voice guiding you through it and answering questions if you need it.
So get the class engaged as soon as possible with an activity would be a great way to kick off any sort of online training.
Yeah, I'd make the whole thing an activity because you can, they can. The other thing as well is a lot of the time people want to talk about facts and figures, and if you've got exams and stuff, and when I do the stuff with apprentices, they've all got exams. You don't necessarily have to teach them the facts and figures in a live environment. Some things are appropriate. Me talking to you, there are some things that are worth talking about, but me hitting you with statistics and facts, you're going to go to sleep. So why not take all of that, the detail-oriented stuff, stick it somewhere else, e-learning package, video, something like that they can do in their own time where they're comfortable, and then take the important stuff, the inspirational stuff, the practical stuff, and put it in that live environment when you can be there, or when everyone can be collaborate, they can all talk with each other, they can actually work around it together.
So really then, good habit number 2 would be you are sort of sparking their interest in a topic, and then if you can do that well, they will then go on and do further reading, or they'll go and do more activities offline or do more research in their own time. So is that the key then for online training, rather than trying to force everything on them, is just introduce those concepts?
Yeah, I'd say so, because in reality, people, when they want to learn a skill, if you went to night school to learn cooking, you go to the class and you do a bit of a workshop there. You actually want to do a bit of cooking, but then you want to have something to take away with you when you go back home. And it's the same with everything. It's the same with even boring stuff like policy writing and stuff like that. They want to try out the tool, they want to build up that muscle memory and all that sort of stuff, and then they need the opportunity, and then they need that kind of like that inspiration to actually go away and do it afterwards. So I know Photoshop's a really easy example. You're doing like graphics and stuff like that. People want to try a bit of a technique on in a classroom and give themselves a nice pat on the back, a bit of a reward for doing this technique. But then they want to have like a list of exercise or list of maybe more difficult things to go away and do afterwards. And so it's kind of, instead of expecting to bring everyone into a prison, they've all got to do it there and then in the classroom, have a different medium, have something to take away, use the rest of that technology you've got to spread things out and use the classroom itself for the stuff that's most inspirational, stuff that they're going to take away the most from, rather than bore them to death with stuff and then give them somewhere to go afterwards.
And we used to find in my old business, because we used to make online training materials, that using stories was a great way to introduce facts and figures, rather than just saying, here's a list of facts and figures to learn. So would you say it was the same thing, where you're saying try and inspire them on the online training to then go and do further activities and reading?
Yeah, I quite like a story. I quite like in loads of my lessons, it sounds terrible, I build in crime scenarios. Yeah. And stuff like that. As like, imagine that you've been, the police we did one with logical formulas, like, if statements. And the idea was, you're driving in the middle of the night and it's, around middle of December, and a car comes up behind you and blue lights go on above your head, and loads of people in the room, they recognise that situation. And we'll talk about blowing into the little breathalyzer. And then we'll say, and inside the breathalyzer, a little logic gate happens and it goes really kind of stupid and boring. But it's an opportunity. Yeah, but the stories are quite like, if you've got those facts and figures, I find it's much easier to use like a planned story or a video or a scenario that you can actually engage with, rather than saying, oh, did you know that 15% of people actually enjoy statistics or something like that? Have like something silly. And if you can make it, if it's a crime or if it's like ridiculously romantic or something like that, something emotive that they can get stuck in with, or something they can at least relate to, the funnier or the more stupid or surreal, the better, I find.
It was, I think the stat was you're 22 times more likely to remember facts and figures if it is told to you via a story that is emotive.
Yeah, I suppose it's attaching different things to your brain as well, isn't it? Your brain's got loads of these different centres that pick up stuff. It's that idea, when you're driving home from work, you have an amazing idea, and you think, right, when I get home, I'm going to write that down. And you get home and you've forgotten it. It's because nothing's connected to it. But if you can connect, like, this is why, particularly with extreme emotions, if you can connect like some kind of weird emotion, something that made you laugh, or if you can connect, or like with practical things, muscle memory, those sorts of things, if you can connect another emotion, another feeling, another part of your brain to it, you're more likely to remember it, because, that's how you encode things in your mind, I guess.
And now, real quick, real tangible takeaway skill that you think anyone listening to this could take away and implement in their business if they were going to be involved in online training.
Well, the first thing is you are a person. When people hire a trainer, when they're not hiring a company, they're hiring a person. And so you have that power. It's your story. You can use that power. And I think a lot of people are too shy to build in their own activity, or too shy to build in their own story or something like that, for whatever reason, one reason or another. But actually, if you give yourself permission to create your own activity, to create your own story, your own activity, whatever it might be, to paint the picture of that message. It's easy to rely on like other people to do stuff. If you work for a company, to rely on companies to churn out some materials, they'll be boring. Do you know what I mean? They'll be terrible. But when people hire a company and you go out there, they're working with you, the person. Yeah. And so use your story, use your personality, but then even go further and take that and make your stamp on it. You've got a YouTube channel. Everyone can have a YouTube channel. Record that story, stick it on YouTube. You've got a computer. Make your own PowerPoint. Make your own story. You've got like an activity, even if it's just like a boring audit or something like that. Make that activity. Slap your name on it. Do it your way, and just be bold and just do it. And
So really put your personality and your stamp on the training that you're going to be delivering,
Yeah.
whether it be online or in the classroom.
Yeah, and just the fact that you've done it and it's got your stamp on it, like same thing with a story and making connections, they'll remember it because they'll remember you. They'll remember the teacher. They won't remember the company, but they'll remember you, the teacher.
So for those that are watching this and they want to implement some online training, where could they find out more about yourself?
So my website's www.bethemost.co.uk. I've got a YouTube channel as well attached to there, and I say LinkedIn. They seem to be the main things. Basically, I've got a whole ton of blogs and a load of e-learning courses.
Thanks to Charles for joining us in the Habitz Podcast Studio, sharing with us his good habits when it comes to training. If you've got any tips you'd like to share, let us know in the usual places, and join us next time for some more Habitz Podcast.